what's up? Hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my review for Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. I just finished this book yesterday, and I had to make a review for it for you guys because I could not contain my excitement for it. I have to talk about it. Your Welcome Universe follows our main character, Julia, who is a street artist. After Julia uses her talent to cover up a slur that someone has written about her best friend at their school for the deaf, Julia is expelled. Now, Julia has to attend a mainstream school, and she's kind of an outcast for a variety of reasons. Not only is she the new girl, she also has nothing in common with a lot of these kids, but she's also the only person in the school who does not have the ability to hear. So while Julia is now practicing her street art in a different neighborhood, a different street artist is altering her work, and it's getting her super frustrated. So now while Julia is again risking expulsion as well as arrest, she is involved in a graffiti war with this unknown rival. I love Your Welcome Universe so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I could not be happier that I read it. It's definitely one of my new favorites of the year. This review is going to be spoiler free, where I'm just going to tell you all my general feelings on this book and why I think you should read it, so you don't have to have read Your Welcome Universe to follow along with this review. Now, one thing I love right off the bat about the story is there was so much diversity involved in it. This was my first experience reading about a deaf main character, and while I will talk more about that experience later, Julia is also Indian. Julia's culture does play a big part in the story, but she also has 2 moms, and both of them also are deaf as well. This is definitely a set of characters and a family dynamic that I've never really read about before, but I found it so wonderful that there were so many different types of people implemented into the forefront of the story. There were a ton of different ways for people to be represented and feel identified with, and I just thought that aspect was so amazing. So Your Welcome Universe does focus in on 2 different communities that I really don't have a ton of experience with. Number 1 being the deaf community, as well as the second being the street art community. I personally don't have a ton of experience with the deaf community, but I am taking an American Sign Language class next semester, which I am super excited about. But reading Your Welcome Universe made me even more excited because I feel like my knowledge has just increased. Throughout the book, there are different beautiful illustrations, and if I'm correct, the author is actually the illustrator as well. But in addition to the illustrations, there are a few diagrams on how to sign different words, and I thought that was super cool. Like, I was just sitting there trying to sign along with the book, and it made for a great addition to the story. Now, while I also can't speak for the deaf representation in this novel, I do feel like it was well researched. I do have a little bit of knowledge of the deaf community as a result of my psychology education, and I had a professor who was very involved in the deaf community, but there were so many moments in this book that I felt were represented in a very sensitive way. Julia is proud to be deaf with a capital D. She doesn't wear her hearing aids, she doesn't want a cochlear implant, and that's not to say that you have to not want those things in order to be a part of the deaf community, because there is a character who does have a cochlear implant. Julia doesn't view her life the way somebody who has always possessed the ability to hear might have. I don't know if I'm like describing this properly, but I just feel the author had a great understanding of what she was writing about, and everything came across in a really great way. Now, regarding street art, I know nothing about it, but I felt like I did after reading this novel. For example, there's so much lingo that you could tell was a distinct part of street art culture. It was definitely evident to me that the author did her research and really invested in what it is like to be a street artist in order to produce the best book possible, and that's something I also really appreciate. Regarding Julia, I freaking love Julia. She's definitely one of my new favorite protagonists. One of my favorite things about her is that she isn't nice. Julia expects to be treated like a proper human being, and she does not take anything less. If there is somebody judging her by the color of her skin, if there is somebody that is insinuating that she is less intelligent because she is deaf, if there are friends that are not treating her like friends and are just using her, she does not take their shit, and it was wonderful to see. I feel like Julia is the type of person that is like, ew, affection, get away from me, don't touch me, don't hug me, but deep down inside, she really does love the people that are close to her, and she is very affectionate in her own way. Julia is a very strong protagonist in the respect that she is written and constructed very well as a character, but she is also a great human being. There's also one girl that Julia grows close to at her new school, who Julia only refers to as YP for yoga pants. I personally loved YP as well. It took a little bit for me to grow on her because I wasn't expecting her to play as big of a role as she did. She's really one of the only people in this book to reach out to Julia and to make an effort. I love their friendship because YP is just so compassionate and understanding and empathetic. YP meets Julia knowing nothing but I love you in the alphabet in sign language, but she really does learn in order to communicate with a new friend. She never treats Julia as a burden. She's always willing to translate for her when they are in a situation where everyone else is of hearing. They text and they type when they are with each other in order to communicate better, and she was just really accommodating in order to make this the best best friend possible. She's ultimately a really fantastic friend, and that was really wonderful to see. Now, there is this kind of reoccurring conversation about a low-key eating disorder from one of the characters in the story. I kind of really liked the way this was approached because it was so different from a lot of books that I've read. It wasn't as if this character is flat out said to have a specific eating disorder. I don't even think the words eating disorder are even mentioned in the book, which normally I would sometimes have a problem with, but I felt it was approached so nicely. The way other characters talk about this person's disordered eating and their issues with their weight was in a way I felt could be really realistic and a lot of people could relate to. There was a nice balance between the subtlety of these conversations and how they can actually occur in real life, as well as the importance of recognizing these issues and coming forward and challenging these themes. So while that is not a central theme of this story, I really enjoyed a very different portrayal of somebody who had disordered eating habits and a negative body image. I just felt it was very unique while also being very authentic. Another thing I loved about this book was that it's not a romance novel. What? We have a YA title that is not a romance-centered book? Or is this the apocalypse? I don't know what to do with myself. Do not get me wrong, I love my YA romances, but we are really overflowing in that genre when it comes to young adult books. So when I find a book about friendship, about two people growing together and growing individually, it just makes my heart so happy and it makes these books so much more of a novelty. It's funny because I went into this book thinking that it is a romance novel. Because in the synopsis, it talks about Julia going toe-to-toe with her rival, and because YA is so focused on romance, I assumed it would just be like a street artist that she ran into covering up her art and then they would fall in love. But it was so much better than that. I just love it when I can go into a book with certain expectations and the actual execution is so much better than what I originally anticipated. If you're looking for a non-romance novel, I would highly recommend Your Welcome Universe. It is just so strong and deep, and even if there was a romance, it wouldn't have needed it because it really does stand on its own. So that's really it for my review on Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. Overall, this is probably one of the most fantastic books I have read this year so far. I'm truly in love with every piece of this story. The characters, the setting, the content, and the execution. Everything was flawless in my opinion, and I don't often say like this much about a book. It really was that good. I'm so happy I read this book. I am so happy it exists. It makes me all around very, very happy to read. Let me know in the comments below if you have read Your Welcome Universe and what you thought of it, or if you're interested in picking it up, which I really think you should do. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new video. Bye!